of the group who will be presenting RA 6713, otherwise known as Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. For the authors, it was enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the Philippines in Congress, assembled and approved on February 20, 1980. For the introduction, RA 6713, otherwise known as Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, governs all government employees in order to promote a high standard of ethics in public service. It is an act to uphold the time-honored principle of public office, being a public trust, granting incentives and rewards for exemplary service, enumerating prohibited acts and transactions, and providing penalties for violations thereof and for other purposes. In the context of the Philippine government, the highest standards of ethics are embodied in Republic Act No. 6713, or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. RA 6713 also bears the 8 norms of conduct. So ito po yung mga dapat i-observe or i-practice ng ating mga public officials and employees. And these are commitment to public interest, professionalism, justice and sincerity, political neutrality, responsiveness to the public, nationalism and patriotism, commitment to democracy, and simple living. For the declaration of policies, it is the policy of the state to promote a high standard of ethics in public service. Public officials and employees shall at all times be accountable to the people and shall discharge their duties with utmost responsibility, integrity, competence, and loyalty, act with patriotism and justice, lead modest lives, and uphold public interest over personal interest.
Next is definition of terms. First is public office. It refers to right, authority, and duty created and conferred by law, by which, for a given period, either fixed by law or enduring the pleasure of the creating law. Next is public officials. Includes elective and appointive officials and employees, permanent or temporary, whether in the career or non-career service, including military and police personnel, whether or not they receive compensation, regardless of amount. Next is gift. Refers to a thing or a right to dispose of gratuitously, or any act of liberality in favor of another who accepts it, and shall include a simulated sale or an ostensibly onerous disposition thereof. It shall not include an unsolicited gift of nominal or insignificant value not given in anticipation of or in exchange for a favor from a public official or employee. Next is conflict of interest. Arises when a public official or employee is a member of a board, an officer, or a substantial stockholder of a private corporation or owner, or has a substantial interest in a business and the interest of such corporation or business, or his rights or duties therein may be opposed to or affected by the faithful performance of official duty. Next is divestment. Is the transfer of title or disposal of interest or in property by voluntarily, completely, and actually depriving or disposing oneself of his right or title to it in favor of a person or persons other than his spouse and relatives as defined in this act.
So, norms of conduct of public officials and employees. So, one is commitment to the public interest. Public officials and employees shall always uphold the public interest over and above personal interest. Second, professionalism. Public officials and employees shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. Third, justness and sincerity. Public officials and employees shall remain true to the people at all times. Last, political neutrality. Public officials and employees shall provide service to everyone without unfair discrimination and regardless of party affiliation or preference.
Next, responsiveness to the public. Public officials
In
and
your mock,
employees.
Dave?
Yes, sir. Next, responsiveness to the public. Public officials and employees shall extend prompt, courteous, and adequate service to the public. Next, nationalism and patriotism. Public officials and employees shall at all times be loyal to the Republic and to the Filipino people. Promote the use of locally produced goods, resource and technology, and encourage appreciation and pride of our country and people. Next, commitment to democracy. Public officials and employees shall commit themselves to the democratic way of life and values, maintain the principle of public accountability, and manifest by deeds the supremacy of civilian authority over the military. Next is simple living. Public officials and employees and their families shall live modest lives appropriate to their position and income.
For the duties of public officials and employees. Fir- First, act promptly on letters and requests. All public officials and employees shall, within 15 working days from receipt therefore, respond to letters, telegrams, or other means of communications sent by the public. The reply must contain the action taken on the request.
I cannot see you, Miss Jonathan.
Next is submit annual performance reports. All heads or other responsible officers of offices and agencies of the government and of government-owned or controlled corporations shall within 45 working days from the end of the year render a performance report of the agency or office or corporation concerned. concerned. Such reports shall be open and available to the public within regular office hours. Next, process documents and papers expeditiously. All official papers and documents must be processed and completed within a reasonable time from the preparation thereof and must contain, as far as practicable, not more than 3 signatories therein. In the absence of duly authorized signatories, the official next in rank or officer in charge shall sign for and on their behalf. Next, act immediately on the public's personal transactions. All public officials and employees must attend to anyone who wants to avail himself of the services of their offices and must at all times act promptly and expeditiously. Make documents accessible to the public. All public documents must be made accessible to and readily available for inspection by the public within reasonable working hours.
System of incentives and rewards. A system of annual incentives and rewards is hereby established in order to motivate and inspire public servants to uphold the highest standards of ethics. For this purpose, a committee on awards to outstanding public officials and employees is hereby created, composed of the following: the Ombudsman and Chairman of the Civil Service Commission as co-chairman, and the Chairman of the Commission on Audit, and 2 government employees to be appointed by the President as members. It shall be the task of this committee to conduct a periodic, continuing review of the performance of public officials and employees in all the branches and agencies of government and establish a system of annual incentives and rewards to the end that due recognition is given to public officials and employees of outstanding merit on the basis of the standards set forth in this Act. The conferment of awards shall take into account, among other things, the following: the years of service and the quality and consistency of performance, the obscurity of the position, the level of salary, the unique and exemplary quality of a certain achievement, and the risk of temptations inherent in the work. Incentives and rewards to government officials and employees of the year to be announced in public ceremonies honoring them may take the form of bonuses, citations, directorships in government-owned or controlled corporations, local and foreign scholarship grants, paid vacations, and the like. They shall likewise be automatically promoted to the next higher position with the commensurate salary suitable to their qualifications. In case there is no next higher position or it is not vacant, said position shall be included in the budget of the office in the next General Appropriations Act. The Committee on Awards shall adopt its own rules to govern the conduct of its activities.
And that is Mr. Christian Dave.
Yes.
So ito naman yung mga pinagbabawal na acts and transactions as government officials or public officials. So una is financial and material interest. Public officials and employees shall not directly or indirectly have any financial or material interest in any transactions requiring the approval of their office. So, bakit siya bawal? Kasi magkakaroon siya ng conflict of interest. So, paano nagkakaroon ng conflict of interest? So, for example, i-appoint ka as the chairman of LTFRB and yun pala meron kang pagmamayaring bus company. So, maaari mong gamitin yung office mo in favor sa company mo. So, yun yung nasisilip na conflict of interest, kaya siya pinagbabawal or pinoprohibit. So, next is, so, for example naman dito is government official ka. So, outside employment and other activities shall not own, magmayari or magcontrol, magmanage, or accept employment as officer, employee, consultant, gossip, broker, agent, trustee, or nominee in any private enterprise. So, ibig sabihin, kapag government employee ka or public officials ka lang. Ibig sabihin lang nun, ang pinaka-source of income mo is yung government. So, bawal ka nang tumanggap ng any private enterprises. Pero sabi dito, unless is expressly allowed by law. So, may iwan siyang exemptions.
Balik mo? Sabi?
So, ang exemption is engage in the private practice of their profession unless authorized by the Constitution or law, provided that such practice will not conflict or tend to conflict with their official function. So,
Yan ba yung kaninang slide o bagong slide yan?
sir.
Go back. Shall not what? Could you please repeat? Could you please repeat?
Sir, ibig sabihin dito, kapag government or public officials ka, pinoprohibit na hindi ka na maaaring or outside employment, hindi na pwede yun. Or mag-own, mag-control, mag-manage, or accept employment outside sa trabaho mo as a government official. Pero dito sabi niya, sir, unless expressly allowed by law. So meron siyang exemption. And the exemption is basta hindi siya mag-conflict or hindi niya maapektuhan yung official function ng office mo. Or yung part-time mo, hindi siya during the office hours. So, pwede. Yun yung exemptions. So, number 3 is recommend any person to any position in a private enterprise which has a regular or pending official transactions with their office.
Continuation of prohibited acts and transactions. Disclosure and or misuse of confidential information. Public officials and employees shall not use or divulge confidential or classified information officially known to them by reason of their office and not made available to the public. So, kapag public official ka or employees, dapat hindi ka nagbubulgar ng mga informations na nasa loob ng inyong office para lang sa mga specific tao. Then, solicitation or acceptance of gift. Public officials and employees shall not solicit or accept, directly and indirectly, any gift, gratuity, favor, entertainment, loan, or anything of monetary value from any person in the course of their official duties and or connection with any operation being regulated by, or any transaction which may be affected by the function of their office. So next one is, bawal ka rin mag-solicit or tumanggap ng mga gift from individuals para lang mabigyan, para magkaroon ka ng, para magkaroon sila ng idea about dun sa privacy mo rin mga binibigay mo. So bawal ka mag-solicit.
Next is the statement and disclosure.
You are Mark Anthony.
Yes, sir. Statement of assets and liabilities and financial disclosure or SAPE. All public officials and employees except those who serve in an honorary capacity, laborers and casual or temporary workers shall file under oath their statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, and a disclosure of business interests and financial connections, and those of their spouses and unmarried children under 18 years of age living in their household. So, lahat daw ng public officials ay maliban sa mga honorary capacity or yung sa lupon, gano'n, yung mga pastors or laborers, yung mga utility workers and casual mga utility workers ay na-exempt sila dun sa sasabit ng sabi. The two documents shall contain information on the following: real property, its improvements, acquisition cost, assessed value and current fair market value, personal property and acquisition cost. All other assets such as investment, cash on hand or in bank stocks, bonds and the like liabilities, and all business interests and financial connections. The document must be filed within 30 days after assumption of office, on or before April 30 of every year thereafter, and within 30 days after separation from business.
So, divestment. When we say divestment, this is the public official or employee shall avoid conflicts of interest at all times. When a conflict of interest arises, he shall resign from his position in any private business enterprise within 30 days from his assumption of office and or divest himself of his shareholdings or interest within 60 days from such assumption. A good example of this po is there is this health minister from UK or the United Kingdoms. He violated the health protocol of COVID-19. So, ang ginawa po niya is, kinis niya po yung colleague niya, which clearly violated the health protocols of COVID-19. So, after po nung nangyari yon, immediately po, kusa siyang nag-resign po sa position niya bilang isang health minister po. So, next is, the same rule shall apply where the public official or employee is a partner in a partnership. The requirement of divestment shall not apply to those who serve the government in an ordinary capacity, nor to laborers and casual or temporary workers. So next is the penalties. So a fine not exceeding the equivalent of 6 months' salary. Next is suspension not exceeding 1 year. Next, removal depending on the gravity of the offense after due notice and hearing by the appropriate body or agency. And lastly, the violation is punishable by a heavier penalty under another law. He shall be prosecuted under the latter statute. So before po mag-end tong report namin, we would like to share some wise words from the late President of the United States, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. He says that the whole art of government consists in the art of being honest. So yun lang po, sir.
Theoretically. Can I see your basis for the law that you had? That is RA what?
6713.
RA
6713.
6713.
Yes, sir.
Can I see it? Where's the RA 6173, the full document?
Yung written natin. Kasi yun yung pinakul. Sir.
Wala kayo dyan. So, isasubmit kasama yun na isasubmit ninyo, ha?
Yes, sir.
I-off nyo na yung recording.